And then God changed Saul into Paul. But it took several years of the churches that were started as a result of Christ. And now they're saying, wait a minute, we heard that this Saul guy who used to kill the church, all of a sudden he's become a preacher. What right does he have to become a preacher? In fact, he's the one that we should be going after to kill, rather than him come, we should kill him. We should kill him. Not knowing that this Paul that was just turned to Saul is now going to give us the living, breathing revelation, manifestation of God. Amen. Yet, pious, righteous, self-indignated Christians wanted to kill him. So the first thing that the ungodly does, their trick and ploy, is to get you to personalize. To get you to personalize what someone has said or what someone has done. Now, folks, Hillary Clinton, on the other hand, has lived a life. I'm not here to bash anybody, but you shall know them by their fruits. Folks, if for no other reason, she has already said, and we already know, that if she becomes the President of the United States of America, we will have open borders. There will be an onslaught of people around the world into this country. And folks, she will hire Muslims. She will put Muslims into her administration. And I wouldn't doubt it if she wouldn't put a Muslim or two to the Supreme Court. Folks, there is nothing more destructive than an internal destruction. The world outside can't destroy us in here. We can only destroy ourselves. So if we begin to go at one another and fight one another and bicker one another, you've all been through it. How many of you, don't raise your hands, but how many of you have been through church splitzes? How many of you have seen church splitzes? How many of you have seen people go this way and people go that way and hurt feelings? I mean, for crying out loud, I've even known about board members who had to call in to have board meetings. And they had to call in the superintendent from the districts, come in, because they knew board members were going to go to the board meeting with guns. Literally. They were going to go to the meeting, and if push came to shove, they were going to shoot each other. Wow. Unbelievable. Now, if this woman becomes president, folks, we will not know our country. Our country will never be known as it's ever been known. Anti-God and ungodly people will be a part of this country even as much as it is right now. In places that you and I, folks, there will be no holds barred. I'm just telling you. Especially even in education, there'll be no holds barred, folks.
That's right.
Now, I guess I didn't hear this, but I believe Pastor John Hagee, Mel was telling me about this morning. I didn't watch him today on TV, but he was preaching about how that somebody has already prophesied. See, you have this self-righteous Ayat. What's her first name?
Governor.
Ayat. She's a senator from South Carolina, North Carolina. And so, Kelly Ayat. So she's come out and said, I'm not voting for Trump, and I'm not voting for Hillary. I'm going to write in my ballot Mike Pence. Okay. See, here's a complete and total lack of judgment by a self-righteous, pious, so-called Christian politician. One of those two are going to become president. And in your self-righteous, pious mannerisms completely void of all judgment, a non-vote for Trump is an automatic vote for Hillary.
That's right.
Automatic. I don't care if you're writing the dadgum man in the moon. It is a vote for Hillary. And these self-righteous, pious indignation, and they all call themselves Christians. Mike Lee got out. He's supposed to be head of the Tea Party. He got out and made this big, no, he said, my daughters, my little girls. You see, that's what I mean by most preachers and these politicians, they need to get a real job. They need to go to work at the mills where some of you guys worked. And listen to the language and the talk and the jokes. Get in the real world, for crying out loud. Now, the second ploy that an ungodly person does to distract from the real issues that are going on. They do this. Butch, if you go back, please, and turn off all the lights, it'll just help make my illustrated sermon a little clearer. Just kill all the lights. So the first ploy the ungodly does is they get you to personalize. And you take it personally. Okay? The second ploy that the ungodly does is they shine a light upon that individual thing, whatever it is. Look how bad he is. He said these words. And they shine a line on. Now listen to this. Now this is what happens. So while the ungodly is shining a light on how bad this person is, it's dark everywhere else. And the ungodly continue to do their mischievous deeds.
Yep.
So while the ungodly says, look at her. Look how bad she is. Look what she did or what she says. And then all of our attention goes to how bad that is. And then we personalize how evil that is. The demons of darkness do things in the dark that are unseen because we allow ourselves to be turned to that which is being microscoped by a spotlight on something that really doesn't have anything to do with anything in the first place. Now hit the lights. You see, the Word of God, folks, righteousness is not a flashlight. Righteousness is an illumination. Righteousness doesn't say, look how bad, look at what. Righteousness says, turn on the lights, illuminate so that we can see everything. The gospel is illumination. The ungodly is a spotlight singular upon that which caused everyone else to be distracted by that which is supposed to be most important in the first place. Now, you can leave the lights on, thank you. Mill mentioned that Pastor Hagee was preaching today to his 10, 20,000 congregation, plus the millions that are watching on TV, that someone already prophesied, and I'm totally against this, 100%, has already prophesied publicly that Donald Trump's going to become the president, but will be assassinated, and Mike Pence will take over as president. I'm totally 100% against that. It is not from God that God would get someone to prophesy the death of another for the sake of some kind of restitution for those super pious, self-righteous Christian politicians, whoever it might be, who are personalizing this whole thing. Is anybody getting what I'm saying?
Yes.
This is the ungodly. This is the ungodly. And as I listen to what people are saying, to what people are declaring, I say to myself, our country and the world is packed full of ungodliness, and the reason for that is there's less and less God upon the face of the earth.
That's right, amen.
And so if we don't pray, if we don't speak, if we don't do something, then the ungodly will continue to gain more and more power, the foothold of our world. And that's just not supposed to be.
Amen.
That's not how it's supposed to be. And folks, let me just tell you something. If the church thinks that we're exempt, I can just tell you right now that if Hillary becomes president, and she's in there for very long, it's going to impact what we do in here.
That's right, you will.
or she's going to try to impact what we're doing here. They've already down in Houston, Texas, and some of those places, the local governments have already required preachers to hand in sermon notes on a weekly basis to make sure that they're not preaching politics from behind the pulpits. And to make sure that what they're preaching doesn't violate any human rights, doesn't violate any particular class of people in our society. But first of all, we're not going to do that in the first place. You see, folks, we don't stand in judgment. We don't judge. We don't judge. Not judging Donald Trump or judging Hillary Clinton, but the facts remain for themselves. What each have said, what each have done, what each have declared. And listen, I'm not in favor, and I think most Americans aren't in favor of either one of them. But folks, the choice that we have been given is which is the least of the worst. And when we personalize and when we get distracted, and when the first thing we want to do as Christians is kill somebody, that's ungodly. That's ungodly. We only have 30 days left. We need to pray.
Yes.
I mean, we really need to pray. I mean, by the time it comes time for Idahoans to vote, it's already going to be decided. We kind of already know that. But that's beside the point. I can't even imagine the onslaught. I can't even imagine. I just can't even imagine that someone would stand up and prophesy. That someone would stand up, that Kim, let me pick on Kim, would stand up and prophesy during the worship service that someone's going to come in and kill me and that Pastor Charlie is going to become pastor. I just cannot even imagine that. I just cannot even imagine that. Now the Lord raises up one leader and he takes down another leader. But folks, let us understand that the United States of America, we're not determining of the ushering and of the grace of God or the becoming of the Lord. But folks, let us have a complete global look. Africa right now is absolutely burning. People are starving, people are dying. The whole world is screwed up. And as I listen to leaders around the world and I see things that are going on, I see no God. I see no presence of God. Not to say that there aren't great people doing great things. You understand my point, right? It goes to the leadership of the world. It goes to the very catapults of those places. And I close with this. I'm so proud of the Baptist preacher. He pastors the largest Baptist church in the United States. Some 25 or 30,000 people. Downtown Dallas, Texas. And he was on the news the other day preaching in about a 5-minute session to the narrator exactly what I'm saying to you here this morning. Almost word for word. And he's not even filled with the Holy Ghost. Just kidding. Lighten things up. Lighten things up. Lighten things up. Almost word for word. And I said, amen, brother. And he said, it is about time. Hillary Clinton is all for partial abortions, full-time abortions, and as soon as the child comes out of the mother's womb, she's all for snapping and breaking the back of their neck and then harvesting them for organs. Really? Do we have a choice? Do we have a choice?
That's right.
Let's all stand. Now, I hate preaching these kind of messages because I feel like that we don't go any way with anything. You know what I'm saying? But it's just the way it has to be sometimes. It's just the way it has to be. Be in prayer this week. Be in prayer this week. Be mindful of these two things. The two ways that the ungodly trick the godly into deception. The first way is they get the godly to personalize something that is perceived as being evil, wicked, and deplorable. They personalize it. And the second way is that the ungodly shines a spotlight on it. Like that's the only thing in the world that matters at all. And while the unrighteous turn their eyes and look to that which is being spotlighted, the demons of wickedness continue to do their evil deeds in darkness. And remember that when the gospel comes on, it illuminates the whole room, not just the back corner. It illuminates our whole lives, and not just one singular thing. That's the work of the ungodly. But the work of righteousness and the Word of God shines a light on the whole thing and says, redemption draweth nigh,
Yes.
saith the Lord. Seek me and ye shall find me. Ask for forgiveness and ye shall receive it. Need grace and joys and ye shall know me. For I am the God of Almighty. Can you say amen?